Cal Miles isn't the kind of guy who complains. Ever since he left home for college at 18, he's been used to carrying his own weight. Tuition, rent, cold dinners, and sleepless nights chasing deadlines. There was no safety net waiting beneath him. No one told him what to do. That's how Cal has spent most of his adult life. On his own, but clear-headed. After a few years grinding it out in the city, Cal moved back into his parents' basement. Not because he'd failed, but to save money. With a steady gig as a freelance programmer, he could pay rent, chip in for utilities, and still tuck some money away for his plan to buy a place of his own. No one was covering his expenses. Cal wasn't asking for anything. He just wanted stability. Every month he transferred $450 straight into his mom's account. No one reminded him. No one asked. But Cal knew, if you live under someone's roof, you take responsibility. The basement was his domain. Tidy, simple, and quiet enough to work. He only went upstairs to eat or say a quick hello. No conflict, no hassle. Cal was the kind of son any parent should be proud of. But in the Miles household, Cal's quiet presence made him invisible. Because in this house, all the light was reserved for Adam. Adam Miles, the youngest, was the perfect opposite. Loud, flashy, always with a story to tell, and always on the verge of something big. Their parents called Adam the dreamer. Even at 27, after quitting 3 jobs in 2 years, they still believed Adam was just trying to find the right place to shine. He once tried selling NFT art, then planned to start a sports podcast, and most recently talked about opening a pet photography studio. Every plan needed funding, and the funding usually came from their parents. Cal didn't get involved in any of it. He didn't invest, didn't give feedback. He didn't try to stop it either. He just kept his distance. The way he always did with the noise in this house. Weekly dinners were the only time Cal sat down with the whole family. Adam would go on and on about his latest idea. Their mom would nod along, and their dad would bring up that story from high school. How Adam once wrote a poem so good the teacher photocopied it for the whole class. And Cal? He'd scoop another spoonful of mashed potatoes, nodding every now and then to look like he was listening. From the outside, they looked like a model family. No fights, no cracks. But Cal knew that peace, that calm, only existed because no one dared touch the quiet tension simmering beneath the surface. His mom always deflected when Cal brought up work or his plans to buy a house. "What matters is that you're doing okay," she'd say, then steer the conversation back to Adam. Cal didn't argue. Not because he had nothing to say, but because he knew that words didn't matter in a house where people only listened to what they wanted to hear. He learned to stay quiet. Like when he saw himself cropped out of the family photo last year to make room for Adam and his wife. Like when his name was left out of his mom's Facebook post celebrating her amazing kids. Like when he heard his dad say, "All Adam needs is one shot and he'll take off." And Cal? He just stayed in the basement, worked, set money on time, closed the door gently, didn't bother anyone, didn't draw attention. But sometimes the most damaging thing isn't conflict. It's the feeling that you don't exist, that you're not seen. And Cal was starting to feel that, bit by bit, day by day, quietly and deeply. He was still sitting there one weeknight at the small table in the basement when his mom knocked gently and called his name in a voice just loud enough to hear. There was nothing unusual about that tone. It was familiar, soft, the one she used when she was about to ask for something she didn't want to be refused. Cal stood up and pulled out a chair for her. The room was silent, except for the low hum of the washing machine in the corner. She looked around, as if taking in the place her son lived. "You doing okay?" she started. Cal nodded. "Same as always." A quiet beat passed. She placed her hand on the table, slowly twisting her wedding ring, a habit she had whenever she was about to shift the conversation. "You know," she said, her voice steady and slow, "living costs have gone up a lot lately. Electricity, water, groceries, everything's more expensive." Cal stayed silent. He knew that. The monthly email with the bills made it obvious. But he didn't say anything. She went on, "Your dad and I were thinking, if you could, maybe pitch in an extra $300 a month, just for now to help the family a little." Cal leaned back slightly, eyes locked forward. "What's going on, Mom?" She gave a soft, calming smile. "Well, Adam and his wife are going through a bit of a rough patch. They had to leave their old apartment. I told them they could stay here for a few weeks, just until things settle down. You mean? Cal exhaled lightly through his nose. You want me to pay more to support Adam and his family? It's not supporting, she corrected quickly. It's helping. Families stick together when things get tough. You live here, you've got a stable job, and you're sensible. You understand, right? Cal looked at her. There was calm in his eyes, but inside, every word she just said felt like weight on his throat. Every help, every stick together, every stable. He'd been hearing those words for 20 years, but somehow they'd never been meant for him. His mom left the room a few minutes later, leaving Cal with next month's bill, now $300 higher. No discussion, no asking. Just a done deal. Adam moved in 3 days later. No knock, no greeting for Cal. His wife laughed a lot, talked even louder. Their 2 kids shouted constantly down the hallway. A white cat, with slanted eyes like it hated the world, wandered around like it owned the place. Adam called it Captain. Cal didn't ask. The main floor changed overnight. The TV was almost always on. Someone was always in the kitchen. The bathroom was never free. Every time Cal went up to grab food or do laundry, it felt like he was sneaking through someone else's house. At first, he told himself, it's just a few weeks. Everyone said it's temporary. He tried to stay grounded. Kept his routine, early mornings, workouts, no drama. But week by week, the temporary started taking over. The small table where Cal used to read was now covered in toys. The fridge was packed with milk cartons, snacks, and soda. None of it his, but he had to move his own food to make space. One morning, Cal noticed his pricey bag of beef jerky was gone. His mom said maybe the kids took it by accident. He didn't make a fuss. But inside, the feeling grew stronger. That familiar sense of being pushed aside. If he didn't speak up, no one asked. But if he did, he'd be the one causing tension in the family. Once, after waiting 20 minutes outside the bathroom, Cal finally knocked. Adam opened the door, raised an eyebrow. You in a rush or something? There's like 3 other bathrooms. He said it like Cal was the guest here. Cal didn't respond. He turned away, fists clenched. Not because of that one comment, but because of everything it represented. Once again, in this house, he was the one expected to be the bigger person. The one who had to know his place. His mom's words echoed in his head. You're more stable, so it's okay for you to help a little. Only, this time, Cal wasn't sure he wanted to help anymore. He couldn't say exactly when the breaking point would come. Because ever since Adam moved in, it hadn't been one big thing. It felt more like a sink that never stops dripping. Slow, steady, silent. A leak that never ends. That morning, Cal walked up to the kitchen to make coffee. His favorite mug, matte gray with the words, low profile, high value, was missing. He opened the cabinet, searched around, found it. A crack ran through the handle, and inside was a faint lipstick stain. No one had asked. No one explained. Cal rinsed it under hot water, his fingers trembling slightly. Not from anger, but from exhaustion. The basement wasn't Cal's room anymore. It had become the dumping ground for whatever didn't fit upstairs. A broken plastic chair, boxes of clothes that didn't belong to him, busted kids' toys. He had to push things aside just to roll out his mat and work out. The space was shrinking. The air was heavier. His razor disappeared one morning. He asked. His mom dodged the question. Adam shrugged. Thought no one was using it. Figured I'd try it out. Chill, bro. Cal said nothing. 2 days later, his headphones were gone from the drawer. He found them in the living room. Cords snapped. A can of soda he'd been saving, the pricey imported kind, vanished from the fridge. His mom said, kids saw something sweet and grabbed it. No big deal. Cal started avoiding the main floor unless absolutely necessary. He worked in the basement with the door shut, using his old backup headphones, his second monitor propped close to the wall to block the glare from the window. That was how he held the line. Thin, fragile, but his. Until the cat jumped onto the shelf and peed on his freshly washed wool coat, the one he hadn't even had time to fold. The smell sank in deep, unwashable. Cal picked up the coat and walked upstairs to find his mom. Captain just peed on my coat, he said. She looked at him like he'd broken a family heirloom. He's just a cat. Don't be so sensitive, Cal. I'll wash it again for you. What's the point? Cal said quietly. It's been pissed on. Adam overheard the last part. Man, you really blow everything out of proportion. He's a pet, not a robot. Cal looked at him, didn't say a word. That night, while Cal was working, a loud bang on the basement door made him jump. The door swung open. Zoe, Adam's older kid, poked her head in. "Uncle, does your computer have Roblox?" Before Cal could say anything, Tyler, the younger one, ran in and slammed into the desk. His second monitor, the one he'd saved for a month to buy, toppled and cracked diagonally across the screen. No one apologized. Adam just said, "They're kids. Why'd you leave something so fragile right by the walkway?" Cal said, "This is my workspace." His mom called down from the kitchen. "Cal, don't yell at them. They just want to play." "And what about where I work, Mom?" "You can bring your laptop to the dining room. There's space there," his mom said. "It's loud as a market up there." She didn't answer, just sighed and went back to doing the dishes. Adam shrugged, picked up Tyler, and walked off without looking back. Cal packed up his laptop, went out, and bought a used monitor. On the way home, he wondered if any other tenant caused this much damage, noise, took up this much space, broke his stuff, would he still be expected to pay more and get nothing in return? The next day, he brought up the power bill. "I've been covering my share, but with more people in the house, the usage is way up. We need to split it more fairly." Adam leaned back on the sofa, smirking. "You're getting a steal living here. $450 and you expect peace, privacy, and no one touching your stuff? Keep dreaming." "This is my home," Cal replied, voice steady. "I pay to not have my basic boundaries stepped on." Their mom stepped in from the kitchen. "Cal, don't put pressure on your brother. He's already dealing with a lot." Cal looked at her. "And you think I'm not?" She didn't answer. Just shook her head, not at what had happened, but at his reaction, as if that was the real disappointment. That night, Cal sat in the dark, back against the wall, staring up at the low ceiling with its old wooden panels. A spider crawled across the light. Footsteps echoed from upstairs. Adam, the kids, the TV. Nothing felt like his anymore. Not the space, not his voice, not even the right to be angry. For the first time in his life, Cal felt like a stranger in his own home. No one told him to leave. But everything was pushing him out, and no one seemed to notice. Or if they did, they acted like this was just how things were supposed to be. Cal didn't leave right after that night. He stayed a few more days, not because he thought things might get better, but because he needed to be sure that when he left, it would be the last time he ever felt this small in his own family. It was a Friday night when Cal came home earlier than usual, after working late at a client's office, a project he'd taken mostly to have an excuse to spend more time away from the house. The door to the main floor was unlocked. The kitchen light was still on. The TV murmured from the living room. He stepped quietly through the hallway, planning to head straight down to the basement. Then he heard Adam's voice, on the phone, laughing loudly from the living room. "Yeah, Cal?" "Man's like a walking ATM. Don't even have to ask, just take. He's living in the basement like it's some five-star hotel." The person on the other end burst out laughing. Adam kept going, not realizing someone was standing at the end of the hallway, hearing every word. "He auto-transfers money every month, always on time," Adam laughed. "Mom always takes his side. Dad doesn't care. I'm telling you, being that dumb is how people think you're a good guy." Cal stood still, no expression on his face, just silence. Total, complete silence. He didn't step into the room. He didn't confront him. He didn't yell or throw anything like some hurt character in a movie. He just turned around, went downstairs, closed the door, sat in his chair, unplugged his laptop charger, packed away his monitor carefully into a cardboard box. Every motion was slow, deliberate, like someone preparing for a long journey, one they didn't plan to return from. He packed through the night. No note, no text, no goodbye to his mom. At 3 a.m., he wheeled his suitcase out of the basement, across the hallway without turning on a single light. Quiet as someone sneaking out. But in truth, he wasn't running away. He was walking out of a prison he'd lived in for far too long. The front door closed behind him. Cal didn't look back. He rented a small room on the edge of the city. Not cheap, but quiet. It had a window that looked out onto a patch of grass. No one bothered him. No cats, no kids, no TV blaring, no half-joking jabs about him living off anyone. He kept the same job, 3 days at the office, 4 days working from the new place. Picked up a few extra freelance gigs to cover the deposit, replace the monitor, and fill the hours. 3 months passed. No texts from his parents, no calls from Adam. And Cal didn't send a word, either. Slowly, the new room began to feel lived in. A small bookshelf, a snake plant in the corner, a teapot he picked up at the weekend market. Small things, but they felt real. They felt like they were his, not borrowed, not shared, not something he had to tiptoe around every time he wanted to use them. Cal didn't smile more. He didn't turn into a whole new person. But he slept better. He could eat without watching the clock to time his turn in the bathroom. And he no longer felt like he had to brace himself just to grab a glass of water. One early morning, as he opened the window to let in the breeze, Cal realized something inside him had softened. Like for the first time in his life, his own voice wasn't being drowned out by someone else's. He didn't need to raise it, didn't need to fight for space. No one was pressing down on it anymore. He thought back to what Adam said that night. Walking ATM. Back then, it felt humiliating. But now looking back, Cal just felt clarity. Adam hadn't changed, the family hadn't changed. The only difference was that Cal had finally had enough to no longer need a justifiable reason beyond this simple truth. He deserved to live without constantly shrinking himself. With each passing day, he felt lighter. Not because everything was perfect, but because for the first time, he was allowed to be himself without anyone twisting that into something else. No one called his kindness naive. No one handed him responsibility and called it family loyalty. There was no farewell, no tears. Just a man who quietly walked away the moment he realized he'd been drained dry. And this time, he chose to keep what was left for himself. Tuesday night. It started raining. Not a storm, but that steady, dragging kind of rain that feels like the backdrop to a year that won't let up. Cal was folding his blanket when he heard the knock. 3 taps, spaced out. Not urgent, but clear. He glanced at the clock. Just before 8 p.m., no one was supposed to come. When he opened the door, his mother was there. Shoulders wet, no umbrella, no purse, no makeup. Her thin coat clung to her frame. Her eyes were sunken. Her hands trembled slightly. Cal stepped back silent. She walked in, without asking, without looking around. Not like someone visiting. Like someone who had finally run out of strength, and was just looking for a place to sit down and not have to hold it all together anymore. They sat across from each other in silence for a few minutes. Cal placed a glass of water on the table. His mother wrapped both hands around it, not drinking, just holding it tightly, like the warmth of the glass was the only thing left she could cling to. "Cal?" she began, her voice rough and low. "Adam's gone." Cal didn't react. No surprise. No questions. He waited because he knew that wasn't the whole story. This time, he left behind a pile of debt, credit cards, personal loans, even a loan in your father's name for some online trading thing. Her eyes blinked fast, trying to hold it back. "We didn't know. He hid it, and now the house is being foreclosed." Cal sat upright, hands laced. The wind slipped through the window crack with a soft whistle. Rain tapped steadily outside, mixing with the sound of her breathing. "We've started selling things," she went on. "The dining table, the dryer, the TV. I pawned my wedding ring." She paused. "It's still not enough. The kids don't really understand what's going on. Amy, she's gone too, probably back to her mother's." Cal gave a small nod. He didn't ask, didn't accuse, just let the current keep flowing. No interruptions. His mother gripped the glass tighter. Her voice softened, barely above a whisper. "I was wrong. I thought you were the strongest one in the family, so you didn't need to be looked after. I didn't see that maybe you were tired too. That maybe you also wanted someone to take your side." Cal looked at her for a long time. The face that used to anchor every decision in the family was now lined with worry and collapse. The woman who had always defended Adam, no matter what, now sat in front of him like a student waiting for her final grade. He stood, walked to the shelf, grabbed another dry towel, and handed it to her. No words, no lectures, no need to explain. He wasn't angry anymore. Not sad, not burning inside like before. What he felt now was space, empty but calm. "I'm not the quiet kid anymore," he said slowly. "And I'm not Adam's shadow, here to absorb the mess he leaves behind." His mother nodded, small, steady nods. No excuses, no added words. She knew. This time there was nothing she could say to make it right. "I'm not coming back," Cal said, meeting her eyes without flinching. "But I don't hate you. I'm just choosing not to live where love always comes with conditions. A drop of water fell into the glass, maybe from her wet hair, maybe from her eyes. Are you okay? She asked, barely audible. For the first time in years, Cal said, I feel light. And it was true. No more carrying the weight. No more performing the role of the good son just to keep everyone else comfortable. No more self-imposed duty. No more need for anyone's approval. Cal looked at his mother one last time as she stood, reaching for his hand. Her grip was thin now, bones more visible than before, but for the first time he felt something real in it. No pressure. No performance. Just a mother, quietly apologizing to her son without expecting anything in return. The door closed behind her. The rain hadn't stopped. Cal sat back in his chair and exhaled. He knew the mess wasn't over. The debts, the house, the fallout from Adam's disappearance. But now, none of it felt like chains around his neck. Because he had stepped out of the role of the ideal son. And also because he had gone farther than anyone who ever thought he'd stay stuck. Nothing changed overnight. There was no grand rebirth, no dramatic comeback, but the smallest things began to shift, like old gears, dry from years of stillness, slowly turning again. Cal started with the basics, reorganizing his bookshelf, replacing the light bulb in his bedroom, buying a new chair to read in at night. He patched the peeling paint on the corner wall, peeled off the old sticky notes cluttering his monitor, and took his bedding out for a proper wash. None of it was symbolic. But each task marked something real. He was rebuilding his life, and this time it was for no one but himself. He still kept his habit of walking at night. Not because he needed to escape family tension anymore, but simply because he wanted to breathe. The air outside felt like the world was finally breathing with him, not pressing down on his chest. His mom called sometimes. Not often. Not urgently, just short updates. About the house they were trying to keep. About her part-time job at the town library. About the kids now living with Amy's parents. And eventually, about the quiet days where she was learning how to live without clinging to the idea of being the mother who always knew best. Cal didn't send money. She didn't ask. But when she did have questions, he listened. When she wondered whether to keep the house or sell it, he laid out her options clearly. No pressure, no judgment, just a son, giving her the honest truth. No one used the word help anymore. Because now they both understood, support isn't an obligation. It's a conscious choice, with boundaries. He didn't return to the old house, even when his mom said, "You can come back anytime." Cal just replied gently, "Thank you, but my place is here." Not out of anger, but because he understood, some roles, once you step out of them, going back isn't a return, it's a step backward. He was no longer the older brother who absorbs everything. No longer the breakwater for repeated mistakes. No longer the one holding up a fragile image of stability for a family that was leaning hard but pretending to stand tall. And for the first time, his mother didn't push back. She nodded on the other end of the line. A quiet silence, not of dismissal but agreement, a kind of respect that had never been there before. Quiet but real. Cal didn't cut ties completely. He was still his mother's son, still part of that family story, but no longer the part weighed down by a role he never chose. No longer forced to stay quiet just to keep up the illusion of peace. One afternoon his mom asked, "Are you angry with me?" Cal thought for a moment, then said no. Then he paused and added, "But I was, and I got tired of hiding it." She didn't respond, but he heard a soft sigh on the other end. Maybe it was regret, maybe it was acceptance. A week later she sent him a photo of the old dining table, now sold. She wrote, "Cleared out, the house feels more open and lighter." Cal looked at the photo and something in his chest tightened slightly, not out of sadness, but because, finally, things were beginning to move. One Sunday evening, they talked over video. His mother asked, "Are you okay?" Cal smiled, for the first time, not to hide anything. "I'm okay, really okay." After the call, he set his phone down, poured a glass of water, then stepped out onto the balcony. It was still early. The air wasn't too cold yet. Late morning light stretched gently across the wall of the building, across from his. He leaned against the railing, not thinking too much, just standing there. Light. "I used to think family meant learning to sacrifice," he remembered saying to his mother. "Now I think it means knowing where the line is. Because if family is a rope, Its strength isn't proven by how far you pull it, but by knowing when to let go so no one gets strangled. And he'd learned that, not from books, not from advice, but from years of being treated like a necessary shadow in a play he no longer wanted to perform. Cal closed his eyes and took a deep breath. No one was waiting for him to come home for dinner. No one expected him to chip in more. No one was calling him early to watch the kids, fix the stove, or clean up someone else's mess. For the first time, he was a man living for himself. No weight, no role, no family on his back just because he's the one who can handle it. Just Cal Miles, not needing to be understood, just needing to be himself. And that was enough. Sometimes the hardest part isn't forgiving others, it's forgiving yourself for staying silent, for putting up with too much for too long. Cal didn't choose revenge. He didn't need to prove anything. He simply stepped out of the role his family had written for him and started living as a whole person. Without burden, without assumption. Family shouldn't mean draining one person to keep the rest intact. It should mean seeing each other as separate, whole people, each one deserving respect, a voice, and the freedom to choose how they live. So what about you? Have you ever felt like a shadow in your own family? Have you ever been treated like the one who can handle more, so you are always expected to? Share your story in the comments. And if Cal's story spoke to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel, Family Drama. We truly appreciate your support. Thank you so much.